Well, good morning. Is it on?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Well, it's wonderful to be here with you this morning. And so this story really seemed to really fit this morning. Oh, closer. All righty. So yesterday, as I was driving home from taking care of my horse, who lives in Parker, very far away. I live near Evergreen, and due to a lot of unforeseen circumstances, she lives in Parker right now. But as I was driving home, I had a very peaceful sense, even though it's been a rough year for her, and it was like at times for me a Job-like experience last year. And so, but I was driving home, I heard my inner knowing voice say, I am falling out of control. And you know, we often say I'm about to lose control, and it's sort of like a bad thing. But as I was thinking about this thought to myself, I know it was a good thing. I am falling out of control. So yesterday, when I was taking care of her, I needed to get out there. I was there the day before, and I needed to get out there early yesterday morning while the sun was out because she was completely covered in mud. That is really a bad thing for horses. And because with the cold weather, their hair lofts, it stands up beautifully and it keeps them warm, not when they're covered with mud. And so I had to, and she's really quite a very good girl, you know, and so I had to douse her with lots of buckets of warm water, and she let me do that for the most part. And then I had to stand behind her, and she's really a good horse. She's never kicked me once in 11 years. But I was standing behind her holding this really heavy bucket in one hand, and with my other hand, I had her tail in the bucket, and I was working out the mud balls. And she was really good. It was amazing. But then we were almost all done. I was drying her off, and then she decided that it was time to leave. And so where she lives in Parker, it's on lots of acreage. I mean, there's 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 plots of acreage. And she took off. And so she was running. She was galloping. And I think she first thought she was going to go get back with the rest of her horses, the horse friends she lives with. But no, she was running all over the place. What was amazing to me about me was this. I calmly went over to my car. I got her favorite treats, which are peppermints, and she likes the crinkle of the paper. I got my treats. I made sure that my new golden retriever mix that I just adopted was safe, and I just started walking through 1 to 2 feet of snow calling her name. And when she heard me, she started running at me. But then her horse friends decided that they needed her back with them immediately, so she ran back to them. She couldn't get in because it's all fenced in. And so then I'm just like, I'm amazed at myself, because when I first got her, if she would run, I would panic. And I would start chasing her. Well, of course you can't chase a horse. She's going to run. And so I was calmly walking through the snow, and finally she turned around and she heard me. And she came running at me, so I stepped over a little bit, and she did a really fast stop. She looked at me, I gave her the treats, I took the lead rope that was still gracefully over the back. I don't know how it stayed like that. I took her and I secured her. But it was really quite amazing for me. I think it was like I was thinking, and though we don't have tests, I was thinking, that was sort of like a test, you know, how calm I was. And so that's when my inner knowing voice said that I'm falling out of control. You know, I didn't panic or need to control it. At one point, she was running up and down the street with cars in it. But I was like, I know she's going to be okay. And so you can understand when I heard my inner knowing voice say, I'm falling out of control, that was really a good thing for me. My inner knowing voice was saying, it's okay to stay connected to the wizard brain. With the kids I work with, we talk about the lizard brain, which is our survival brain, where the fear, flight, and freeze are. And then the wizard brain is our higher brain. And when we're connected to that level of who we are, we have access to all of our knowledge, all of our awareness, our feelings, our thoughts, and our history. So anyway, I have a question for you. Are you at times, or a lot of the time, feeling a bit overwhelmed by the problems that our world is facing right now? And sometimes do you feel like you want to do something, but maybe feel powerless and hopeless at times, wanting to do something, but not sure what to do? It is very important for you to know this. Who you truly are will solve the problems of the world. Who you truly are will solve the problems, and it is the only way. And so let us listen to the words of this song. I wish I could sing it. First, when there's nothing but a slow, glowing dream, that your fear seems to hide deep inside your mind. I'm getting emotional about this song. I love it so much, but all alone I have cried, silent tears full of pride, in a world made of steel, made of stone. Well, I hear the music, close my eyes, feel the rhythm, wrap around, take a hold of my heart. Take your passion and make it happen. Pictures come alive, you can dance right through your life. Now I hear the music, close my eyes, I am rhythm. In a flash, it takes hold of my heart. Does anybody recognize that song?
Yes.
This song and the movie it came from changed my life. It was, of course, for those that were alive back then, the movie was Flashdance. When the movie came out in 1983, I was doing all that I could to be accepted into ministerial school at Unity's HQ in Lee Summit, Missouri. There were many reasons why I was not the most likely candidate for ministerial school. The first reason was that I was terrified to speak to a small group of even 4 people, let alone a large group on Sunday. Another reason was that I was the youngest in the application pool. I was 26. And the final reason was that I had just put myself through 6 years of college and I had no money in the bank. However, I believed so deeply about learning. I believed that I could somehow overcome that fear of public speaking, because I would see people doing it and think, if they can do it, I can do it. And then I had a few key spiritual teachers that were supporting me, helping me believe in myself, even if I didn't completely. For one, I think some of you, I've talked to you before over the years about Patrick Berryhill. He was my first Unity minister, and he had Reverend Jack Dupree, a divine science minister. And Jack Dupree, when I was going through this process, he said to me, if you want this, if you really want it, you can have it. And so, long story short, I was able to overcome all of those obstacles, and I became an ordained Unity minister in 1996, and that was something to celebrate. And what enabled me, though, to do that, to fulfill that dream, was the awareness of that slow, glowing dream, that indeed my fear did hide inside my mind. At times, I felt all alone in that world made of steel and made of stone. But that slow, glowing dream was there, and I could not let it go. My mother taught me to pay attention to my dreams. My mother had many gifts. One of the things she did was support people like that in having their dreams come true. And she'd always been like that. I'd see her do it for other people as well. And so I learned from a very young age to believe in my dreams. And it came true. And I have had many dreams come true since then. But the main effect of working to make my dreams come true is this. Just a minute. So the main effect of making these dreams come true was just the process of connecting to my truest self. This is where our unborn dreams abide, with our truest and authentic self. They wait there until we connect with them, until we identify them and do all that we can to fulfill them. If the dream is a dream that is truly coming from our authentic self, its fulfillment is part and parcel of our divine purpose. Now, people often say to me, well, what's this thing about divine purpose, soul purpose that you talk about? And they said, and how do you know what your purpose is anyway? And so the process of knowing what our purpose is, humans tend to make harder than it really needs to be. The easiest step to identify our soul dreams, which we have many, but is to make them important and to not just say, oh, that's just something I'll get to someday maybe. So one of the best dreams that I have had come true was the birth of my son. One reason is because I wasn't going to have kids, period. I worked at Silent Unity when I was in ministerial school, and I was always getting calls to pray for children. And every time I would get these calls, I would think, well, someday, if I would choose to have kids, I will have a boy named Christopher, but I'm not going to have kids. And I would get all these calls to pray with children all the time. And a lot of times it was boys named Christopher. It was just sort of odd. But anyway, so the long story short of that is that the first Unity church that I served was in Kent, Washington. And my husband at the time, we were serving as co-ministers, and we were invited to be on the staff of the Miracle Mountain Retreat in the state of Washington. It's a really huge Unity retreat. I don't know if they still have it now. But anyway, Alan Cohen, does anybody remember Alan Cohen? The dragon doesn't live here anymore. He was leading us in this meditation. And the meditation was, the main theme of the meditation was, what would you do if nothing were standing in your way? And so he was leading us in this meditation. What would you do if nothing were standing in your way? What would you do? And so I'm like really deep into meditation, and I'm thinking, oh, get my PhD, maybe I'll move back to Colorado. I was just going through all sorts of things. Then all of a sudden, the thought came, have Christopher. And it was like a shooting star in the black night. And it was like I started crying and crying. And my husband looked at me and he said, what is wrong with you? And I said, I'm going to have a baby. And he said, oh, really? I thought you weren't going to have kids. But anyway, within 4 months, I was pregnant. And that was the best part still. And the thing is, when we really follow these deep dreams, or even the smallest ones, they usually lead us to the next, which is why I wrote that book, All Children Are Gifted, Raising Confident and Spiritually Aware Children. But so that's the first part, being willing to not make our dreams unimportant. And the next part of identifying our divine purpose is this. Our purpose is often the intersection between something we have worked through and then when we see that need in the world. And that often is a very good way to understand part of our purpose anyway. And so, for example, a person who has done all the incredible work of healing from an abusive childhood may be drawn to help children who are abused. Or someone that may have had dyslexia as a child and thought they were not so smart, as they grow in understanding about that, maybe they'll do something to help people with dyslexia. So I'm just saying those two examples anyway. But so another reason to seek to connect to our authentic self, first of all, that's where our dreams lie. But another reason is this. The best way to connect to God is via our authentic self. The best way to connect to God is via our authentic self. And another fact, the only way that really we can solve the problems in the world, in our personal lives, in our family lives, is to connect with our authentic self. And so this is why I said, who you truly are will indeed solve the problems in the world. It's the only way. So I invite you for a moment to consider the butterfly effect. to help understand why connecting with your authentic self is so important. And first of all, let me just say, what is our authentic self? I mean, it's such a buzzword, and it has been for a few years. But when we really choose to connect with who we are, we have access to our thoughts, our feelings, our intuitions, our body awareness. We have access to our history, and we have access to all that makes up who we are when we're really connected at depth to who we are. And so the butterfly effect, it's to help understand why connecting with this part of us, or the allness of us, is why it's so important. Here's a description of the butterfly effect taken from Wikipedia. The butterfly effect is the concept that small causes can have large effects. Initially, it was used with weather prediction, but now it is a metaphor that is used in and out of science. And so today I'm using the butterfly effect to explain how when even one person has the courage to connect with their dreams and therefore their true and authentic self, they have found a way to help solve the problems in the world. It takes a lot of courage to do that, but this courageous act has the ability to help heal our world. So my son's birth was part and parcel of so much. I mean, having Christopher just led to so much healing and awareness. It was just so wonderful. And so, but this need to connect with our truest self has been proclaimed in all religions. All spiritual leaders have talked about it. Reverend Marvin Anderson, my favorite ministerial school teacher, he said it like this. As we were getting ready to go out into the world in 1986, he said, "Listen, you baby ministers. Yes, you are graduating and being ordained as a minister, but your job is not to be a minister. Your career might be to be a minister, but your job is to keep working on yourself and to keep healing yourself and heal anything that stands in the way of you being who you are." And I listened to Marvin, he was my favorite teacher, and I've done all that I can to keep doing that inner healing. And now Jesus said it like this: "Seek first the kingdom of heaven, and all these things shall be added unto you." And of course, since we look at the Bible metaphysically in unity and know that Jesus represents our authentic self, our divine self, the Christ within, but the wholeness of who we are. This teaching of Jesus must be understood as how it pertains to each one of us, to seek first that kingdom of heaven. And of course, in unity, metaphysically, we know the kingdom of heaven is within. And it is the place of wholeness and oneness and allness that is within each one of us. And that is why Jesus said things like, "Where two or more are gathered in my name, there am I in the midst of them." And so, but as we gather together in that consciousness of oneness, then there's more than two when two people are together. It's because that Christ's presence, the divine, is magnified as we join together in a common cause and a common purpose. And talking about common cause and common purpose, I now have a wonderful reading from Mark Nepo, his Book of Awakening. Is anyone aware of that book? I just don't even know if I'd be here right now without Mark Nepo and his work. But here's what he says. If I can do all this, but it's from the Book of Awakening is a book of daily readings. And this one, I love it. It makes me cry every year when I get to this one. Our sense of calling. Every year around the scalp of the planet, the caribou run the same path of migration along the edge of the Arctic Circle. They are born with some innate sense that calls them to this path. And every year along the way, packs of coyotes wait to feed on them. And every year, despite the danger, the caribou return and make their way. And then Mark Nepo goes on to explain, often nature makes difficult things very clear. What feels like confusion is frequently our human refusal to see things for what they are. What lesson do the caribou shout to us with the thunder of their hooves as they deepen the crown of the planet? They are evidence, even as we speak, of the fact that in every living thing there is an inner necessity that outweighs all consequence. For the caribou, it is clear what it is. For spirits carried in human form, it is a blessing and a curse that we don't always know our calling. Part of our migration is the finding out. What is it we are called to beneath all formal ambition? The caribou tell us that though there are risks and dangers that wait in the world, we truly have no choice but to live out what we are born with, to find and work our path. And finally, these elegant animals bespeak a force deeper than courage. And though some would call the caribou stupid, the mystery of their migration reveals to us the quiet, irrepressible emergence of living over hiding, of being over thinking, of participating over observing, of thriving over surviving. Did you like that? I love it. I didn't cry today. I just love thinking about those caribou. All right. So as we do is what that Christ within tells us to do and seek first that kingdom of heaven, what will we find as we know that we teach in unity? We will find pure guiding light that illuminates our authentic path and guides us to be on this path. Our path. Each one of us has our own path. Now, humans love to tell others what their path is and what they should do. That is not good listening. That is not good support. So this last year that was like a Job-like experience, most of the time, the greatest support I got was from Mark Nepo, because people love to tell, if someone's in a challenge, they love to tell you what to do, or what they would do, or how they've done it. But often the reason people do that is because they don't like you to be in quandary or dealing with some hard stuff. And if they can't get you fixed, they may have to feel their own quandary. So just seek out people that will listen and be present. And so again, within the kingdom of heaven is pure guiding light that illuminates our path, our authentic path. Perfect love. We will find perfect love that unites us all, and that revitalizing life that enables us to be restored to wholeness. 3 classic aspects of the divine within: light, love, and life. But now this journey of seeking our wholeness is not easy. Obviously, we know that. But we can make it easier. I'm going to give you one really easy thing to do about it today. But seeking it's not easy because of this, or one reason. Because the kingdom of heaven within is about wholeness, divine wholeness. And in wholeness, there will be parts of ourselves that are unhealed. And we don't want to look at those parts. Or maybe there's parts of us that we've been rejected for. We don't want to look at that. When I say parts, I mean aspects of who we are that we've shoved into the shadow of our unconsciousness. Now, I'm going to try to tell you about a little model that I use called the hero's journey. Normally, I would try to use my hands, but I'm holding this microphone. So I'm going to do my best to tell you what I'm talking about. There's a model of wholeness called the hero's journey that was first conceived by Carl Jung. Now, we often think the hero's journey, we think Joseph Campbell, but Carl Jung, the famous Swiss psychiatrist, is the one that coined this term. And so think, if you will, of 3 concentric circles. The very center circle represents our truest self, our authentic self. It is where our dreams and our gifts and our inner passions lie. It's the essence of who we are. There'll never ever be another you, Sharon, or another you, Mark, or another you, Ginger, or another you, Patrick, or another you, Bonnie. There'll never ever be another one of each one of us here. So it's important that we really connect with that. So think about that inner circle, the essence of who we are. The next circle, around the center circle, is the shadow. We've all heard that term. And what does it mean? It is where our unhealed wounds live. What is significant about this circle is that everything that is in the shadow is something we've experienced rejection for. And so in the shadow are experiences of grief, of loss, of trauma, of abuse. But also in the shadow are some of our inner gifts. That maybe when we were young, we were expressing it, and somehow we were shamed. Put it in the shadow. We don't want to experience that. But also, here's the key thing that I was going to tell you about seeking first the kingdom of heaven and seeking the wholeness, which includes some of those parts we don't want to look at. In the shadow, connected to this grief and loss and trauma and negative beliefs about ourselves, are all those feelings that are connected. Mad, sad, scared. All of those feelings are connected to that stuff we've experienced. And we in our society have become what I like to call feeling phobic. We're afraid to feel our feelings. And people say, oh, I'm so afraid. Oh, I know that's a negative emotion I'm not going to feel. I'm so angry. And it's like, it's not the feeling. We need to, if I'm feeling afraid about something, I need to look at that, because underneath the fear is maybe an erroneous belief. But we humans tend to ignore our feelings, and we are missing a huge part about information about who we are. And so that's one of the keys, being willing to find safe people who you can have your feelings with. So if you can say, I'm afraid, they'll say, tell me more. Or I'm feeling really angry. Wow, I would feel angry too about that thing that happened to you. The beautiful part about feeling our feelings and talking about them is that we get to the underlying beliefs that are underneath the feelings. So the inner circle, the authentic self, then the shadow. The outer circle is who we show to the world. And usually who we show to the world, we usually want acceptance. We want to be accepted. But ideally, in our healing journey, we connect with who we are, we heal what's in the shadow, and then who we show to the world is inner driven, rather than always seeking acceptance from the outer. And so the hero's journey invites us to connect with who we are, heal, and then be who we are in the world. And ideally, unity churches are often a place to really practice being our authentic self. And so again, let me think. In conclusion, the way that you can help solve the problems in the world is by seeking first who you are. And in this seeking, you will know what the next step is. Just being willing to seek. And so when we have an inkling of our next step, even if it seems scary, then we just need to take a toe dip into that action, just to see if it's right. Regarding this toe dip into your next action, imagine thinking that you want to go swimming in northern Lake Michigan in the fall. That happened to me. I love swimming. And I was at this workshop 2 years ago in late September. And it was right on up there at the the coldest waters in northern Lake Michigan. But I knew I needed to go swimming. I love it. So I did that. I mean, it really works, but I put one toe in, okay, and then the next one. And we know that. We probably all, well, maybe not everyone, but a lot of us have been swimming in lakes. And so pretty soon, within about 10 minutes, I was completely immersed, and I had the most magnificent swim ever. But so I could have stopped. I took one little toe dip and then the next. And that's how we can move. We often are very impulsive, or don't take those actions. And so the guidance today is to just take one little toe dip. And if that feels right toward an action that you want to take, then take the next one. And that, my friends, is how we heal our lives and live our dreams, by being willing to take tiny yet guided steps. And so now let us prepare for a time of meditation. So is there a song before this?
There can be.
Oh, great. What would you like to sing as a meditation hymn? Great. That would be wonderful. So let us hear this. And so I invite you to close your eyes. And let us continue in this prayer and meditation by taking some deeper breaths. Slowly breathing in, slowly breathing out. And with our breath, we allow the focus of our attention to turn deep within. Just breathing in and breathing out like ocean waves, coming in and going out. And with one more deep breath, I invite you just to allow your breath to continue on its own. But I invite you now to imagine a very safe and sacred place. It may be a place that you have gone to, or a place that you create in your own mind's eye. But allow your imagination to show you this safe and sacred place. And allow yourself now to imagine being in your safe and sacred place. In this place, you are safe to connect with your entire being, the aspects that you love, the aspects that you have shoved into the consciousness of the shadow. A place to connect with the wholeness within. But allow an image of your divine self to come forward. And connecting with the very presence of the divine that is you, your true self. Your divine self loves you with perfect love, and it knows your path, your authentic path. And the divine self knows your soul gifts and knows your soul dreams. And in a moment of silence, imagine your true self giving you a gift, a symbol that would reflect your next step on your authentic path. Just allow this spiritual communion to occur. And as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, oneness and wholeness. And so I invite you to affirm that in this holy connection, that you are ever guided by divine light, and your path is illuminated by the light of God shining through you. And divine love is active in our lives, transforming everything that is unlike love. And so we are witness to love's activity even now. And divine life that is within every cell of our being is activated so that we are made whole and free as God created us to be. And so with all of this in mind, let us know that we are on our path and we support one another in this very important journey. And so now let us deepen our breathing, becoming more fully conscious of this time and this place. But let us know together that wherever we go and whatever we do, we are never alone. And as we return to this moment in this room with like-minded seekers, we shall indeed be the ones who say, "Here I am, send me." And so it is. Amen. And now let us join together in singing Alleluia.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. That was wonderful. And now we'll take an offering for unity. So, together, please. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I give in love because I trust in God. Once again, Trinity to Mask and Irreverence.